Hello and welcome to Underground, our weekly spotlight on social media leads from around the globe. I'm Muntaha Muaddin. Foreign fighters are still infiltrating to Syria through the Turkish borders. Lebanese move against the racist discourse that is being spread through Lebanese media. Gaza, not the most polished of cities, but equivalent to the history of a nation. And finally, an open letter to the peace movement by Roderick Long. We're starting today's show from Tunisia, as streams of fighters are still leaving Tunisia and other North African countries to fight with Al-Nusra Front extremist group in Syria. Many of these fighters are still slipping into Syria through the Turkish borders to join Al-Nusra Front, which has been recognized by USA as a terrorist group. This had its influence on many Tunisian families who lost their sons to the fighting there. We have this YouTube video of a mother and a wife who rushed to the Ataturk International Airport in Turkey to stop their son from flying to Syria, and they succeeded in doing so. This video also triggered many comments. One comment, alas, these guys don't know the real meaning of jihad or Islam. Another, this is the ignorance inside all these who follow Wahhabism. And last comment, such people are the victims of Saudi Arabia and Qatar, who just work according to the benefit of America and Israel. Our next lead is a YouTube video created and posted by the anti-racism movement in Lebanon, titled Against the Racist Discourse That is Being Spread Through Lebanese Media and Online Platforms. This video highlights the racist practices towards Syrian refugees in Lebanon by those who claim their support to the Syrian cause. Watch this.
اليوم الصبح أنا وجاي لهون تحشر في زلمة على الطريق وكانت لهجته لبنانية لا حمصية ولا حلبية وبالعلامة كان لابس بدلة كوائم.
ليلي عازز على قلبه كثير موضوع الاغتصاب والتحرش الجنسي، معلش وظف لي طاقتك بقانون يجرم المغتصب شو ما كانت جنسيته، إن كان سوري ولا إن كان لبناني.
ديموغرافيا، توزيع سكاني، نسبة ولادة عالية. طب ليك جيب لي كهرباء ومي، مو بقى بدي منك شيء.
سمعت انه الاقليات خايفين نبتوتين، لك لو كنا وطن ما كانوا حسوا حالهم اقليه.
بكفي نقع موضوع اللاجئين، ما حدا طالب منكم تتكفلوا فيهم باي شيء، بس على القليله لما يجيهم مساعدات من برا ما تبقوا تدبوها بجيوبكم.
هن اجوا لانه هربانين من القصف، بتعرفوا شو يعني قصف؟
ليك خيي جاي تحكينا عن الامن؟ ما وقت عملوا شهر امني 4 بنوك انسرقت وطريق المطار تسكرت وباقي الطرقات حرقوها. بدخلك وين كانوا السوريين؟
والله طرابلسية أحق من السوريين بالمصاري. ما صار لي 20 سنة عايش بطرابلس ولا مرة شفت شيء من الدولة. اللي بيسمعك بيقول كل 3 امتار في فيلا.
هلا انه عن جد الحق على السوري اللي جبرته ظروف يجي يشتغل محلك بساعات اكثر ومعاش اقل، او الحق على اللي عم بيشغله اللي بده يربح على ظهره، او اصلا الحق على الدولة اللي مش عامله قانون عمل يحمي الموظفين.
To talk more about this video of anti-racism, we are joined via Skype by Ms. Farah Salka. She's the coordinator of the anti-racism movement in Lebanon. Welcome to the show.
Hi.
First, I would like to know that this clip is part of the work done by the anti-racism movement in Lebanon. Would you please give us details about this movement?
Sure. A few of us started the anti-racism movement a few years back in 2010 because of the growing levels of discrimination and racism and classism and many other isms which we were hearing and witnessing in Lebanon. We thought the normalization of such attitudes and the amount of stories and the horror we heard from many people, especially from domestic workers, was unacceptable. And this is why we thought we needed to do something about this, and we started the anti-racism movement, which I will refer to as ARM in this conversation.
Mm-hmm. You were one of the participants in the video, the clip that you just watched. What can you tell us about this experience?
True. It's sad, basically, but there are ample amounts of racism and discrimination, which some Lebanese project to many people in this country. You have racism against Palestinians, you have racism against migrant workers, you have racism against refugees in general, you have racism against domestic workers. And recently we've started to notice a shift in projecting so much anger and hate incitement towards Syrian refugees in specific. This is why we thought, a few of us thought that it's very important that we do a video or any sort of initiative that highlights the fact that there are other voices in this country which are not being heard on traditional media and which are totally don't accept being represented by those politicians which we have in power and by the people who have basically media time and TV outlets in their names. So we wanted to send a message through this video to apologize to refugees indirectly and to everybody who's being touched upon by this video and say that this doesn't represent us and that there are other voices which are not being heard, like the ones
this
that you heard in this
racism
video.
actually that you guys just showed in the clip, why is it? Why is it there? Even though that the two countries, Lebanon and Syria, are two neighboring countries with similar backgrounds and history and common ties. So why is this racism?
True. Syrian refugees recently, and I mean in general, when you talk about Syrian people in Lebanon, they're basically very bullied, they're insulted, they're looked down upon, and many people find it very easy recently to attribute almost all problems in Lebanon very easily to those refugees. Ironically, problems that have existed long before those refugees have started coming to Lebanon. I can speak about sexual harassment, I can speak about rape, I can speak about lack of safety, I can speak about unemployment. But now it's very easy for the typical Lebanese person to come and say, all of those problems are because of those refugees, and that's very funny. If you want
Who's
to,
behind
if
this,
go,
though?
If we want to go into details of why this is happening, I can say, you know, I'm a person who's sitting on TV every single day, and you have politician here, politician there, all they do. Now that we have elections coming up very soon, and that they want to make sure they're going to be re-elected. So they want to, you know, make sure all the crowds are listening to this and they're gonna save the situation.
So you blame the political elite for such racism?
I blame every single person who have been mostly politicians who have all the media time they want because they have TVs in their names, they have newspapers, they have all this and all that. And they're the people who are perpetuating the same arguments that we need to close down the borders. We don't care if there's a humanitarian crisis or not. We just know that we do not want any Syrian person in this country. And this is horrific. And those people have been repeating the same arguments all over and all over and all over again. So yes, I do blame them.
How successful was this video in spreading your words against racism? Did you get any feedback to it?
Yes, of course. I would say that the video was very successful in that it was one of the very few voices which broke the pattern, which spoke against refugees, and which basically, as I was saying, is propagating that we need to close down the borders. If we close down the borders, everything would be fine and everything would go back to normal. It was also one of the very few things or videos that has indirectly apologized to you know, some people and said that that although, politicians, which I am paying for and you are paying for, are saying those statements, but they do not represent me, and we are going to try our best to not let those people go back to power again in a few months when we have elections again.
Ms. Farah Salka, you are a coordinator of the anti-racism movement. Thank you for joining us today. Now moving on to this Facebook image about Gaza. The image is introduced by these words of the Palestinian poet Mahmoud Darwish. Gaza is not the most polished of cities or the largest, but she is equivalent to the history of a nation because she is the most repulsive among us in the eyes of her enemies. The poorest and the most desperate and the most ferocious. Because she is a nightmare, because she has oranges that explode, children without a childhood, aged men without an old age, and women without desire. Because Gaza is all that, she's the most beautiful among us, the purest, the richest, and most worthy of love. This image was highly liked and shared. We also have this Facebook image presenting the supreme leader of Iran, Sayyid Ali Khamenei, words, "I'm not a diplomat, I'm a revolutionary. I speak openly and honestly." Many users commented on the image. One, more inspirational than all the leaders of the world combined. Another by John Hart, "I admire this man because he's brave, he has a heart with no fear." Last comment, "I like his words." Moving on to this open letter by the Peace Movement by Roderick Long, president of the Molarani Institute, which was made into a YouTube video to illustrate Long's ideas. Take a listen.
Dear peace activists, all honour to you. In your opposition to the United States' impending war in Iraq, you represent a welcome voice for sanity and civilization, lifted up against the incessant baying of the dogs of war. But I want to urge you to follow the logic of your position just a bit further. Much has been said, and eloquently so, about the need in dealings between nation and nation to choose persuasion over violence whenever possible. Hear, hear. But why this qualification, between nation and nation? If persuasion is preferable to violence between nations, must it not also be preferable to violence within nations? Suppose my neighbour runs a business out of his home and I'd rather he didn't. If I call the zoning board and ask them to shut his business down by force, am I acting like a peace activist? Or am I acting like George Bush? Suppose I go to the polls and vote to maintain or increase income taxation, or gun control, or mandatory licensing, or compulsory education. Am I not calling upon the state to invade people's lives and properties? To impose my will by legalized force on those who have done me no harm? To choose violence over persuasion? Am I acting like a peace activist, or am I acting like George Bush? As Ludwig von Mises writes, it is important to remember that government interference always means either violent action or the threat of such action. The funds that a government spends for whatever purposes are levied by taxation, and taxes are paid because the taxpayers are afraid of offering resistance to the tax gatherers. They know that any disobedience or resistance is hopeless. As long as this is the state of affairs, the government is able to collect the money that it wants to spend. Government is, in the last resort, the employment of armed men, of policemen, gendarmes, soldiers, prison guards, and hangmen. The essential feature of government is the enforcement of its decrees by beating, killing, and imprisoning. Those who are asking for more government interference are asking ultimately for more compulsion and less freedom. As peace activists, we understand that aggressive warfare between nations is neither moral nor practical. If violence is to be employed, it must be defensive in nature, and it must be the last resort, not the first. Why would this principle hold good at the international level, but fail at the intranational?
Join us for more leads on Underground after this short break. Stay tuned.
Wherever those are persecuted, that place we tackle case by case.
Cases, where we believe that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
Welcome back. Now, have you ever tried using Twitter to pick on your boss or on your teacher, for example? Apparently, hashtags and hate do not go well together. According to the Daily Dot, an American student complained on Twitter that his teacher scheduled a test for Wednesday only to hold the test Tuesday. He condemned him, ranting him about his hatred for the educator and angry, demanding the teacher obtain a calendar. But amazingly, the student's tweet about the test was on the teacher's desktop the next day. The tweet reads, "I hate you, Mr. Torrance. You said the test was on Wednesday, so give it to us Wednesday, not Tuesday." And he used the hashtag, "You need a calendar." Now more social media news, this time about Facebook. Facebook has begun rolling out a new single-column design for timelines which better organize users' personal pages and places greater emphasis on communication between friends. Daily T2 Technology has posted a video explaining the features of the new Facebook timeline design. Let's watch it.
Hello and welcome to Daily Ted video. This video is about how to get your Facebook new newsfeed and what is it all about. So first go to facebook.com/about/newsfeed. I have also added this link in the description below. Just go to that page and scroll to the bottom and click on join waiting list. I have applied for it, so it will show you are on the list. So just click on this button to join the waiting list, and as soon as Facebook ready to enable the new newsfeed to your account, you will start to see that with a welcome notification message when you log into your Facebook. I cannot assure you that like how many hours it will take or how many days it will take, because it is up to Facebook to decide how long it will take naturally. So it's just similar to the previous services they have launched, just like Graph Search, which they have recently launched and added this waiting list concept. So you can see the preview of new Facebook newsfeed in this page, like how easy it is to navigate and how different it looks from the previous newsfeed. It seems like pretty different from the previous newsfeed, and I believe it'll be faster than the previous newsfeed. The one thing I didn't like in the previous Facebook newsfeed concept, which Facebook has introduced a couple of years ago, is the slow speed issue. It is not possible for me to stay on high-speed internet all the time. It is not possible for many to get a high-speed broadband. So if it is a good connection, then the Facebook news timeline works very well. So that is what I expect, and I believe it will be faster in even in normal connections less than 1 Mbps. You can explore about the new news feed here and how it will look in the mobile as well.
This news also spread on Twitter. Jamie Frank tweeted, "For those who haven't seen the new Facebook design, join the waiting list on facebook.com/newsfeed." Now you might have heard that Google is introducing its Google Glass, but nobody really knows how this new gadget would be used because Google Glass is not accessible to the public yet. This provoked social media users' imagination. Take a look.
Thanks for meeting me here.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I didn't know if we were going in for the hug at first.
It's okay, you played it off well.
Thanks.
But it's nice to meet you in person.
You too.
Yeah. I like your glasses.
Oh, thanks. I need them to see, so that's why I have them on.
Where did you get them?
I got them online. They're pretty new, but thank you.
Okay.
Thanks. So it's Jennifer...
Swanson.
Swanson.
Yeah.
Google Jennifer Swanson. That's a lovely name.
Thank you.
Do you like dogs?
I do. How did you know that?
Lucky guess.
And then he said, that's the difference between a Doberman and a Pomeranian. If there's one thing everybody loves, it's Downton Abbey.
Oh, I love Downtown Abbey.
Yeah.
I especially love the one chick, Countess Violet Crowley.
Crowley.
Yes,
Yes.
her. She's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she has quite the sharp tongue.
Yeah. Did you know that that role was written for her? And by her, I mean actress Maggie Smith.
Wow, we have so much in common.
We really do. Run! 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 Oh, man.
I know, that's what I was saying. He should totally run for president. Politics are so important.
What?
You know, if you're distracted right now...
Oh, no, I'm not distracted. I'm very interested in what you have to say.
Okay. So my thoughts on the European Union are pretty complex. I think a lot of people are sitting around. Nobody's making a decision, and too many people need things not to have someone stand up.
I know exactly what you're talking about. But what about me? Last End Stream.
You want to end streams?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I love creeks, hate streams. What can I say?
Hold on a second. Sorry. I don't date guys who use Google Glass.
What are you talking about? 5 minutes ago, you didn't even know what that was.
Siri told me.
On their part, Twitter users had their own ideas about the coming Google Glass. Alex tweeted, "Instead of looking down at my phone constantly, I now can pretend to look at people attentively while I'm actually just watching TV." Sue added, "Great, just another way to kill innocent people while you drive. We have drunk drivers, texting drivers, and now watching TV drivers. Wonderful." Jason went skeptical about the usage of the glass and tweeted, "Technology with a double edge to it. Will it be abused by inferior people? Most likely by whom? Government, of course." Last tweet by Elizabeth, 24/7 brainwashing. Now, what is a Bitcoin? Online media says Bitcoin is changing finance the same way the web changed publishing. Check how.
What is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is the first decentralized digital currency. Bitcoins are digital coins you can send through the internet. Compared to other alternatives, Bitcoins have a number of advantages. Bitcoins are transferred directly from person to person via the net, without going through a bank or clearinghouse. This means that the fees are much lower, you can use them in every country, your account cannot be frozen, and there are no prerequisites or arbitrary limits. Let's look at how it works. Bitcoins are generated all over the internet by anybody running a free application called a Bitcoin miner. Mining requires a certain amount of work for each block of coins. This amount is automatically adjusted by the network such that Bitcoins are always created at a predictable and limited rate. Your Bitcoins are stored in your digital wallet, which might look familiar if you use online banking. When you transfer Bitcoins, an electronic signature is added. After a few minutes, the transaction is verified by a miner and permanently and anonymously stored in the network. The Bitcoin software is completely open source, and anybody can review the code. Bitcoin is changing finance the same way the web changed publishing. When everyone has access to a global market, great ideas flourish. Let's look at some examples of how Bitcoins are already used today. You can purchase video games, gifts, books, servers, and alpaca socks. Several currency exchanges exist where you can trade your Bitcoins for dollars, euros, and more. Bitcoins are a great way for small businesses and freelancers to get noticed. It doesn't cost anything to start accepting them, there are no chargebacks or fees, and you'll get additional business from the Bitcoin economy. For your first Bitcoins and more information, visit weusecoins.com.
Finally, bullying is a neglected social behavior that can occur at home, at school, and the workplace. Chain Kayakazan created a YouTube video titled "To This Day." It shows the effect of bullying on individuals. Let's watch it.
The only kid who grew up this way. Surrounded by people who used to say that rhyme about sticks and stones. As if broken bones hurt more than the names we got called, and we got called them all. So we grew up believing no one would ever fall in love with us. That we'd be lonely forever. That we'd never meet someone to make us feel like the sun was something they built for us in their tool shed. So broken heartstrings bled the blues as we tried to empty ourselves so we would feel nothing. Don't tell me that hurts less than a broken bone. That an ingrown life is something surgeons can cut away, that there's no way for it to metastasize. It does. She was 8 years old. Our first day of grade 3 when she got called ugly. We both got moved to the back of class so we would stop getting bombarded by spitballs. But the school halls were a battleground where we found ourselves outnumbered day after wretched day. We used to stay inside for recess because outside was worse. Outside we'd have to rehearse running away or learn to stay still like statues, giving no clues that we were there in grade 5. They taped a sign to the front of her desk that read, "Beware of the dog." To this day, despite a loving husband, she doesn't think she's beautiful because of a birthmark that takes up a little less than half her face. Kids used to say she looks like a wrong answer that someone tried to erase but couldn't quite get the job done. And they'll never understand that she's raising 2 kids whose definition of beauty begins with the word mom. Because they see her heart before they see her skin. Because she's only ever always been amazing. He was a broken branch grafted onto a different family tree. Adopted. Not because his parents opted for a different destiny. He was 3 when it became a mixed drink of 1 part left alone and 2 parts tragedy. Started therapy in 8th grade. Had a personality made up of tests and pills. Lived like the uphills were mountains and the downhills were cliffs. 4/5 suicidal, a tidal wave of antidepressants, and an adolescence being called pauper. 1 part because of the pills, 99 parts because of the cruelty. We weren't the only kids who grew up this way. To this day, kids are still being called names.
This is all we have on Underground for today. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.